British Standard. As expected, Keir Starmer issued his speech today. And of course, the questions were inundated with the whole Peter Mandelson situation. Now, I would never expect any of you guys to sit through and watch an hour of Keir Starmer talking because it's absolute nonsense half the time. However, we've took the best bits for you so you don't need to watch the full speech. Now, again, the day after the whole situation, he came out and wanted to attack Matt Goodwin, reform, and the online right, so to speak. So all of you watching, talking about us going on to the grievance and saying what a state places are. And yeah, an attack on the Reform Party, mainly. In the midst of what's happening, yeah? You know, he probably should have postponed this speech for another time, but he's just trying to bury it and move on like nothing has happened. Now, he did issue a slight apology, but in typical Keir Starmer fashion, sorry to the victims of the Epstein sort of scandal. And, you know, of course, no accountability. Oh, I knew nothing about Peter Mandelson and the things that he was doing. You know, oh, cry me a river. Planted crowd clapping him as he made this like apology. No accountability from his point of view, bearing in mind. But also, I just want to say he's lying, because I just want to add here pretty quickly that 18 months prior to him appointing Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador, it was revealed that Peter Mandelson did stay in Epstein's house whilst Epstein was in prison for child prostitution. So Epstein was in prison and Mandelson stayed in his house whilst representing our country, wasn't given any accommodation, whilst visiting, representing our flag, stayed out of choice in Epstein's flat, but made out to Starmer that apparently they didn't have a good relationship whatsoever because, well, he didn't really know him that well. So who lets him stay in his house whilst he's in prison? And more to the point, how did they not know about this? They obviously did. They're just trying to cover their back. Anyway, enough of me talking. Let's get into these best bits. I'm going to start with him attacking reform, so to speak, and then going into a few of the sort of question and answers along with his statement. As always, guys, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more.
You see it in the industrialized grievance factory, in parts of social media. Miserable video after miserable video telling you that entire cities and towns, the great communities of this country, are wastelands, no-go zones. And worse, selling the lie, defied every day by millions of people in this country, that people who look different cannot really live together. I reject that completely. And you see it in politicians, like the Reform candidate for Gorton and Denton, who look at people like Rishi Sunak, Shabana Mahmood, and presumably Marcus Rashford, Shirley Bassey, and Asala, and say they can't really be English or Welsh or Scottish because they are not white. An affront to British values as I see them. And I tell you, as long as I've got breath in my body, I will always fight against that politics. And on that, honestly, I never thought I would see the day when the Conservative Party would tolerate, for months, a man who went to Birmingham and said that the city had failed at integration because he didn't see enough white faces. That is a disgrace, and he should have been sacked months ago.
That's the reality here. That's why people are complaining, and that's why they want change. But more to the point, I'm scuppering over the fact that he even comes out with this speech anyway, talking about division inside our country as if nothing happened yesterday. He did make a little of an apology, but of course, in typical Keir Starmer fashion, the guy couldn't take any accountability whatsoever. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about him. But remember what I said at the start, 18 months prior to his appointment, that he stayed in Epstein's flat.
I want to begin by addressing some of the issues around the Mandelson case. I entered politics later in life. I did so after a career in the criminal justice system, including as Director of Public Prosecutions. I entered politics not for personal gain, not for status, and not to live a life detached from the reality that most people face. I entered politics because I wanted to change our country for the better, to make it fairer, safer, more secure. And I still believe that most people who serve in public life, whether as civil servants or elected politicians, do so for the same reason, because they believe in service, because they believe in duty, because they believe in the public good. But that is not why some people do it. And that is not why Mandelson did it. And that sense of duty only matters if the standards of public life are upheld. And in recent days, serious allegations and serious evidence has emerged concerning Mandelson's conduct, including his relationship with Epstein, a convicted sex offender. It had been publicly known for some time that Mandelson knew Epstein, but none of us knew the depth and the darkness of that relationship. What has come to light has raised serious questions. Information that was not known at the time of his appointment. Before he was appointed ambassador, Mandelson was asked directly about the nature of his relationship with Epstein. He was asked whether he had stayed at Epstein after his conviction. And when, later, further information came to light, he was asked whether he had accepted gifts and hospitality, about whether he had been fully transparent about the relationship. The information now available makes clear that the answers he gave were lies. He portrayed Epstein as someone he barely knew. And when that became clear, and it was not true, I sacked him. Such deceit is incompatible with public service. Let me be clear, no one is above accountability. And no one, however well connected, however experienced, however senior, should hold public office if they cannot meet the basic test of honesty. I also want to address the publication of the information Mandelson provided during the appointment process. I understand the strength of public feeling. I share the anger that people feel when powerful individuals appear to escape scrutiny. And I want to be able to release those documents as quickly as possible. I wanted to release them yesterday, in fact, and to talk about them at Prime Minister's questions. But the police have advised that releasing certain information now could risk prejudicing a future investigation or legal process. And however frustrating from my personal point of view that is, and it is, I will not take any step, however politically tempting, however popular, that risks justice for victims. Because this is not and must never become a political game. The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend. and they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied. To them, I want to say this: I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. But I also want to say this: in this country, we will not look away. We will not shrug our shoulders, and we will not allow the powerful to treat justice as optional. We will pursue the truth. We will uphold the integrity of public life. And we will do everything within our power and in the interests of justice to ensure accountability is delivered. That is what the public expects. That is what the victims deserve. And it is what I will do.
Now, as Keir tries to gaslight the nation, I just want to remind everybody, just quickly again, because it's important information. They knew 18 months prior to his appointment in 2023 that Mandelson stayed at Epstein's flat whilst he was in prison. They knew this information 18 months prior to his appointment. So Keir's saying that, oh, he was deceived, he was lied to, and he just took it. What? He just went to Peter Mandelson. Oh, how was your relationship with Jeffrey? It wasn't that personal, you know. I didn't really hang out with him that much. Did you take a gift of him? Nah. Well, that's okay. Then you can join the Labour Party. You can just join us now, as long as you're saying. What do you think we're all idiots, Keir? Like, oh, you asked him questions on it as if that was enough, as if that was enough to join. The sort of to advise your party to be the US ambassador. That's enough to simply go, oh, we asked him a question and he lied to my face. You were a lawyer, weren't you, for a very long time? I'm sure you've met a lot of people that have lied to your face many, many times. It doesn't mean you just trust their word for it, for God's sake. What an idiot. Now, whilst he tried to gaslight everyone to make sure that he could cover his back and say, oh, it wasn't me, it wasn't that. The reporters, again, he brought out this new sort of scheme that he's promising and whatnot, and, you know, talking about Tory parties, talking about reform on the day after all of this. All of the questions were about this. Of course it were. And Keir continues to try and lie and gaslight about everything. He's also confronted about what's going on with inside his party right now. Just this morning, we did a video talking about Labour MPs that said they've got no faith in him. They believe there's no way back for him. And he kind of brushes it all off. We've got three sets of questions here. I took the best out of the bunch for you to have a listen to.
Thank you, Chris. Beth, can I come to you?
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Prime Minister, we can all hear your anger, your regret, and most importantly, your apology to victims of Epstein for appointing Mandelson as your US ambassador. But look, whatever he said or didn't say, it has proved a catastrophic error of your judgment to put him back into your government. Some of your MPs believe you must take responsibility for this in order to restore trust in politics amongst the public. And some are saying publicly now that you should stand down because your positions become untenable. Why are they wrong? Thank you.
Well, Beth, as I've said a number of times, I regret the decision to appoint Mandelson as ambassador. He was asked questions about the nature and extent of his relationship with Epstein, and he told lies. I had no reason at the time to know they were lies. Subsequently, I found out them to be lies. And this week, we found out way beyond the lies that we found out in September. We found out what he was up to in the aftermath of the 2008 crash, when most of the government and most of the country was doing its level best to make sure people didn't lose their jobs, their livelihoods, and their savings. And at that time, he chose to disclose sensitive secrets to Epstein, almost simultaneously as receiving them. And that is what I meant when I said earlier about the deceit and the standards that I stand for in public life. Yes, at the time I appointed him, I got answers from him which I believed to be true. He painted a picture of barely knowing Epstein. I didn't know that was lies at the time. I regret I didn't know. I've apologised for the fact that I appointed him in the first place, having believed those lies. Thank you, Beth. Robert.
What do you say to your MPs? Some are publicly saying this morning they think your position is untenable. Please, directly, what do you say to them?
Firstly, let me say I understand their anger and frustration. I am angry and frustrated like them because nobody wants to see these deceits in public life. They are angry about his association with Epstein, as am I. They're angry about what he did at the tail end of the last Labour government, and frustrated, as am I, that the full information of what was asked and answered when he was appointed can't be in the public domain. That is frustrating. As I say, I had hoped to deploy some of that at PMQs yesterday because I wanted people to know what was said and what I received, but frustrating that can't be done. So I understand their frustration, but we must remain focused on what we were elected into government to do, which is to change this country for the better for millions of people, and that's what we will do. And today, in Pride in Place, what we've done on the economy are examples, but only examples of what we're doing. Thank you, Beth. Robert, well, hang on, Robert, ITV.
Prime Minister, time and again during the general election campaign, you promised to end chaos in politics. You failed miserably, and there is no one to blame but yourself. If your MPs were to decide that they wanted another leader, and if somebody else put themselves forward as leader, would you fight that?
Well, Robert, I was elected on a mandate in 2024 to change the country for the better, and that is what we're doing. And if you look at what we've done, for example, on the economy, with inflation coming down, and the Bank of England says coming down to target in the first half of this year, with interest rates being cut now 6 times, which is the highest rate of reduction since the 2008 crash, with the work we've done to lift 500,000 children out of poverty, that is the change that and the Pride in Place work that we're doing, examples of which I've just gone through, that is what we were elected to do as a government. That is the change we're bringing about. And am I frustrated that the focus is not on that and on other things because of the misbehaviour and deceit of other people? Of course I am. But of course I am. I understand that. But I was lied to. I was lied to. Deceit. Now, am I frustrated and angry that the good work we're doing gets out of focus because of that, and that tomorrow's front pages are unlikely to be about the Pride in Place project? Of course I am. Of course I'm angry and frustrated about that. But that is the work, that is the change that will affect millions of lives, and I will remain focused on it. LB, will you just...
Well, it kind of avoids our last question there about Labour MPs potentially wanting a new leader. And we're going to get on to some more revelations in a moment from Labour MPs, but he just kind of pushes off. I was elected on a mandate. Yeah, you were elected on a lot of things. You had stuff in your manifesto to do loads of different things, but you've not carried them out. So that means you're not doing your job correctly, which means then you are viable to be ousted. I hate how he just gives that sort of word salad as if he's doing stuff right now. He's not doing anything. All he can introduce is breakfast clubs, like he says every single week. Let's have a listen to this question here quickly, and then I'll take your guys' comments from the chat.
Prime Minister, I wanted to read out some of the things that Labour MPs have told us in the last 24 hours about you. One told us, I'm personally not sure I could trust myself to back the Prime Minister in a confidence vote. Another said, it's like Chris Pincher on steroids, it's over. Another said, this government is on the run. One former minister said, it's time for a fresh start, the sooner the better. Isn't the real lesson from yesterday that you can no longer command the majority in the Commons? And if so, isn't your authority fatally undermined?
Well, look, I understand the anger and frustration amongst Labour MPs about what has happened, the deceit, both in the appointment of Mandelson as ambassador and what happened at the tail end of the last Labour government. I actually share that anger and frustration. It was palpable yesterday. I'm not surprised. As I said, most people come into public life to serve the common good, actually whichever political party they're in. And we have different approaches, different politics, different ideologies, but the vast majority of people come into public life to do their best to improve their communities, to improve their country. And so when people who've been elected into power with that mindset find out that somebody else who's held a position of power does not share that mindset, has undermined it, they're angry and frustrated, not just at the deceit and the lies in the individual cases, but because they know it undermines what they stand for, the politics that they believe in. Now, I understand that, but we are changing this country for the better. We had 14 long years of failure under the Tory government, and we're correcting that. We've stabilised the economy, we've put a huge amount of investment into our public services, and we're rebuilding our communities. And I intend to go on doing that vital work for our country because I believe it is the absolute focus and the first importance for this government.
I love how he plants these people in there to clap after everything that he says. But again, it's just same old, same old, same old, same old, same old from Keir. You know, a bag of air. That's it. That's all you get with Keir Starmer time and time again when he's doing speeches. Zero accountability. Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't know anything about it. Oh, well, you know, I want to do this. Like trying to act as if he's some god. You know, this guy actually publicly came out and defended Peter Mandelson in the Commons, actually prior to his sacking. And I keep on bringing up the point because it's important to know that in 2023, 18 months before he was appointed as the US ambassador, it was known, it was in the public domain that he stayed at Epstein's gaff whilst representing the UK, whilst Epstein was in prison for already being convicted for being a paedophile. So again, I don't buy any of it, and I want to see this. I want to see what's happening. And Keir Starmer wanted to try and add an amendment to the releasing of the files. That was obviously voted down by everybody yesterday. Now he's taking credit as if he wanted it all out there in the public domain. No, that's not the reality, Keir. Stop lying. Stop gaslighting. And I certainly do feel that your time is coming to an end. But just the brass neck of this guy to actually come out the day after all of this stuff and start attacking other parties, start attacking parties that want to change the way we're going as a country, like just going as if it's normal proceedings today. It's mental to me. It really is. This guy is insane. I don't know who's advising him. Clearly, Peter Mandelson was. But yeah, the decisions that he makes on a day-to-day basis are absolutely wild to me. Let's have a little look in the live chat, guys. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all tuning in. Do let me know your thoughts on what Keir Starmer said. I hope I saved you a little bit of time just getting kind of the, the bulk of the speech. I don't want to sit there for an hour and a half listening to that Muppet. He takes a very, very long time. But yeah. Paul says he entered politics not for self-gain. Oh, Stumper, we see right through you. He's just standing there lying and lying. Distance yourself from it all. Your time is coming. Exactly. Oh, that's it. Even worse. Morgan McSweeney advising. Yeah, I can't wait to see the dirt come out on Morgan McSweeney very, very soon as well. But the whole thing stinks anyway. But I've not took joy out of it because they're freaking liars. But a lot of Labour MPs, Wes Streeting coming out today, Steve Reed getting angry in TV shows. They're all sort of peddling the same stuff. Oh, we didn't know anything about Peter Mandelson. We didn't know he was up to this kind of stuff. We knew nothing. Well, to be honest, we don't really like him. Whereas you could see them 6 months ago, literally lauding Peter, saying that this guy is the greatest thing ever, the greatest person ever. He was almost a god amongst those people. Now they've changed their sort of rhetoric. Again, they all knew about it. They're just trying to save face now. They're all trying to save their individual self whilst this shitstorm is ongoing. That's the reality. Harry Carr says, for God's sake, don't call him Keir. Well, Starmer. There you go. Wes Streeting was mentioned by Mandelson for years, and they were personal friends. Yeah, I know. Don't worry, we got a video of Wes Streeting coming up later. I started debunking him a little bit because Wes Streeting's full of shit. Sorry for my language. You're absolutely right. He's coming out this morning as if he knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. Doesn't want anything to do. Wes Streeting, again, I think he was a big part in lauding Peter Mandelson for who he was. And again, I keep on trying to say it because it's important information that you need to know. They knew that he stayed at Epstein's gaff. in 2013 prior to his appointment. You don't just stay at Epstein's gaff, do you? If you're not close to him. How many friends have you got that you're not close to whatsoever? That you went, oh, you're going to New York for the weekend for a work business trip, and you can call up a friend to let you stay. He stayed out of choice because he was representing Great Britain. He was on governmental affairs in New York, clearly, and would have had his accommodation compensated for. He would have been able to stay in an uber luxury hotel in New York, but chose to stay at Epstein's gaff instead of that. That would have already been red siren bells. So I don't listen to any of this bull crap that's coming out of Starmer and these Labour MPs' way. Why hasn't he quit yet? Keir ain't going to quit. His standpoint right now is try to gaslight, try to move on until it becomes untenable, which I think it's getting to that point. But he's going to continue to try and push on until he's he's basically unable to carry on. That's it. Boris only had a piece of cake. Let that sink in. Yeah. Well, if you guys remember the whole situation with Boris Johnson and Starmer back in 2022, Starmer on many things. I mean, we could stand here for ages talking about the hypocrisy of Starmer and the way he is now and the way that he treated Boris Johnson. I think after Boris Johnson made his 12th major U-turn, Starmer wrote, is available on his X, you can see it for yourself. He spoke and said that it's time to step down. It just shows, if to make 12 major U-turns just shows the incompetence of a government. Keir Starmer went on, I think he's on 18 now, is he? 15? Well, either way, when he surpassed Boris Johnson with 13, that tweet resurfaced. So yeah, he doesn't live by the same standards that he gave to Boris Johnson. Now with this situation, yeah, in any other world, if it was Keir Starmer on the other side, he would have been gunning for him. And rightfully so. But Keir Starmer lives by a different playbook. That's just the reality here. He's going to continue. Yes, but he can only continue. He can only continue for a certain amount of time because there's a no confidence vote. And if they do a sort of Labour leadership bid and oust him that way, then they'll have no other alternative. So it's up to the Labour MPs. I would watch Angela Rayner if I were you. I would watch Angela Rayner very, very closely. Not to say that she would be a good Prime Minister. I always say when we're talking about Starmer being ousted, is that the only way? We don't want a Labour replacement. We want him to, yes, get ousted, but we want the Labour Party to go with them. Because imagine David Lammy, imagine Angela Rayner, imagine Wes Streeting being the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It'd arguably be worse and way more left-wing than we already are right now. So, yeah. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I did see a comment there. I'm just going to help out a fellow subscriber. How much do you pay for the t-shirt? This is just a Zara piece, mate. So it's not much. Maybe £30, £25 or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, it's from Zara. But yeah, thank you. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Plenty of content coming our way, as stated. We've got a few things coming through British politics, quite a lot of developments, quite a lot of flapping Labour MPs that we'll dig into as well. But thank you for tuning in for this live.